I used to think, what's the harm in wasting a few days? Everyone takes it easy when they're young, right? But then, one day, I stood still in the middle of a crowd, my hands completely empty. Nothing to show, nothing to offer, and the way they looked at me, it wasn't with pity or anger, it was worse. They simply forgot I was there. That was the day I understood. Not everyone gets a second chance. With time, you're listening to a quiet story from SOUL GYAN, where every tale is a small seed, waiting to sprout in the days when your heart longs to be still. We don't tell stories to rush. We tell them to pause. To pause just long enough to remember what truly matters. How we live with the moments that are quietly slipping away. Today's story is about a boy who let time fall through his fingers and how he slowly found his way back, starting from absolutely nothing. Aarav was born in a small village where every morning began with the sound of roosters and the scent of wood smoke drifting over thatched roofs. He had quiet, dark eyes, always gazing up at the sky, yet he often sat still for hours. It wasn't laziness. He just believed that he had all the time in the world. His mother, a gentle woman with soft hands and a softer voice, would remind him, "Son, don't let time slip through your fingers like water. It doesn't matter what you do, just don't stand still." Aarav would nod politely, then return to playing with pebbles under the porch, drawing lazy shapes into the dust. To him, sunny days and rainy ones felt exactly the same, because he believed the days ahead would always be long enough to do everything. Just not today. There was only one person in the village Aarav quietly admired. Uncle Dev, the oldest farmer around, and the only one who never seemed to stop moving. Even in his 60s, he woke early to tend the fields and watered his plants long after sunset. He often told the village kids, "If you do nothing with time, time will surely do something with you." Aarav liked hearing him speak, but never really understood. He was still young after all. A few more years wouldn't hurt. A few more idle days. What difference could they make? That day the whole village buzzed with excitement. A traveling merchant named Mr. Suresh had arrived and was sitting calmly beneath the Bodhi tree near the village hall. With a soft smile he said, "I'm looking for a few hardworking children to train and build something meaningful together. But before I choose, there's a small test." The challenge was simple. Over the next 10 days, each child could choose any skill they wanted to learn: painting, gardening, woodworking, embroidery, cooking, singing, anything they liked. At the end, they'd present what they had learned to the entire village. The children were thrilled. Aarav too felt a spark of excitement. 10 days, he thought. That's plenty. I'll learn something later. The first day passed with him yawning. The second, he played with crickets. On the third, it rained. So he just lay under the porch counting the drops. But on the fourth day, as he looked out at the courtyard, he saw Kabir, his closest friend, quietly painting under the glow of a small oil lamp. Something in Aarav's chest shifted. He walked over and asked, "You're really learning something?" Kabir smiled and replied, "Yeah, I chose painting. I don't know if I'll be picked, but it feels good to try." Aarav fell silent. He looked down at his hands, still empty, still relaxed, still untouched by any effort. These 5 and 6 passed quickly. Strangely, the village grew quieter. The usual playing fields were empty. One kid was learning to sing with her grandmother. Another had gone into the forest to collect herbs. Everyone was busy with something. Everyone except Aarav. He still sat in his usual spot, but for the first time, he couldn't sit still anymore. At night of the 8th day, Aarav sat alone beneath the porch roof. Moonlight slipped through the leaves and settled on his hands. Resting quietly on his knees, they were empty. No paint, no pencil marks, no scratches from effort. In the distance, someone was practicing a song. The voice was soft, uneven, but warm. Aarav listened but didn't lift his head. His eyes stayed fixed on his hands, so still, so untouched, that they made his own heart feel noisy. He whispered, as if even he wasn't meant to hear it. "If only I had started sooner." The wind passed lightly through his hair. It was cold, but not as cold as what he felt inside. For the first time, he was afraid, because tomorrow was coming, and he hadn't begun a single thing. The 10th day arrived. In front of the village hall, a long wooden table was set beneath the Bodhi tree. Children stood in line, holding the small treasures they had spent the last 10 days creating. Kabi brought his very first painting. Clumsy but full of life. A little girl brought a basket of butter-scented cookies. One boy wrapped homemade cough drops in leaves made from lemon, ginger and honey. Everyone had something to place on the table. Then came Aarav's turn. He walked up, empty-handed. No painting, no song, no sweet scent, just the quiet weight of his own footsteps. Mr. Suresh looked at him without blame. He asked a single question, the kind you ask someone who's lost their way. "Why did you bring nothing?" Aarav lowered his head, eyes fixed on his hands, and answered softly, "I didn't begin." No one laughed, no one spoke, and Mr. Suresh stepped closer, placed a gentle hand on Aarav's shoulder, and said, "Time doesn't like to be wasted, but it will return if you're truly ready to hold it with both hands." Aarav looked up, not because of the words, but because of the eyes. Eyes that had once waited, once forgiven, and still believed that people can change. That night, he didn't rush to sleep. Something inside quietly urged him to sit down and start. He found old paper, a worn brush Kabir had given him, and under the glow of a small oil lamp his hands trembled, not from fear but from the desire to finally do something for himself. From that day on, Aarav woke up earlier. No one told him to, but each morning he chose one small thing to learn: how to boil tea, sew a torn sleeve, tie rope, sharpen a knife. Anything that kept his hands busy and his heart still. A week later, Kabir brought him a fresh notebook. Aarav said nothing, just smiled and opened the first page. The leaves still fell in the courtyard, just like before. But now, each falling leaf was no longer a reminder of what he missed. It had become the rhythm of a boy quietly learning to live, one real day at a time. That moment, when the boy stood there with nothing in his hands, may have seemed small, but for Aarav it changed everything. It was the moment he began to truly live, not through big plans or promises, but by doing one small thing at a time with his own hands. Mr. Suresh had said something simple but clear. Time doesn't like to be wasted, but it will return if you're truly ready to hold it with both hands. Do you remember what day it is today? It's okay if you don't. But if you've ever said, I'll start tomorrow, I'll learn later, I'll change one day, maybe today is that one day you were waiting for. Don't wait any longer. Not because time is precious, but because you are. And you deserve days that are no longer wasted. If this story made you pause, even for a moment, keep it close and share it with someone else who might be waiting for their moment to begin.